as a boss, what's he like? You must spend hours with him every day.
And people ask me, what's it like? What's hard about your job? Here's what's not hard about my job. Donald Trump.
Right.
He is predictable and open and approachable and honest and honorable and committed and all of those things, which does not mean he can't be irritated or frustrated. But I view my job as trying to keep as much of that away from him so that he can think clearly about the big picture. We'll take care of the back office, if you will.
Interesting. What a great way to be. And what's been like, how do you handle him when he is irritated or angry?
Well, I've never found him to be irritated or angry for no reason.
Right.
So solving the underlying problem is where I focus. He'll be angry. He'll say so. But again, at the end of the day, what he wants from me is to fix whatever made him angry. So I try to go to the root cause and do it that way.
Yeah, good idea. And does he have any annoying habits?
He's known to be tardy.
Oh, really?
And so the day gets out of control pretty quickly. But no, he is what you see is what you get. And that's a blessing for a staff member, because then I don't wonder when I come in on Monday, what's it going to be like? I know what it's going to be like. It's going to be breakneck speed to get as much done as fast as possible for the people that need it and matter. And that's really what we do here every day, all day. 7 days a week, by the way.
Right, yes. And so you're sort of creating order out of what a natural chaos.
There is a natural chaos, and he prefers it. He prefers as many inputs on any given topic as he can possibly get. And I prefer that for him. It makes for better decisions. But at a certain point, you've got to rein it all in, and he's got to make a decision, and he does. And then we execute.
And he seems very tidy. His desk is always tidy. He seems to like order.
Very tidy. He's a collector of paper. But we have a great system to make sure we comply with all the records requirements here. But he reads a voracious reader. Reputation is different, but I can tell you, a voracious reader. How many times have you gotten notes from him, Miranda, when he read something?
100%. He reads the New York Post cover to cover.
Yes, he does. And the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times
Right.
and sometimes the Washington Post. And anything else that comes his way, Financial Times and all of the periodicals. So if you read the day's newspaper, the day's news, you can almost predict what the day is going to bring. And that is on top of whatever was supposed to be going on that day too. So I feel like I play catch up all day, every day. But the progress that he's making is so enormous. I mean, it's worth it. It is worth whatever we have to do to get him to a place where he can achieve what he's achieved in 6 short months.
And I guess his being on top of what's current in the news means that he's more adaptable with whatever policies he has or how he messages them.
Yeah, and he's always been sort of a TV guy, but now he's truthing and tweeting and being on podcasts like yours.
Yeah.
He's a very adaptable communicator. And in these times, you don't just, with all due respect to CBS, you don't turn on CBS and watch Walter Cronkite and you're done.
Yeah.
It is all day, every day in every mode that's available. And frankly, that was a big key of success in the campaign. He spoke in every way somebody could receive his message. And it's still like that now.
And you were there, I mean, in his really dark days.
I was.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously he must appreciate the loyalty because a lot of people didn't stick with him then. Why did you do that? I
believe fundamentally, thoroughly, completely in what he believes.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed he could and would come back. I believed he would overcome everything that was thrown at him, which was everything.
Yeah.
And then when we got to an actual formal campaign, all the campaign activities, we had a great team. I had great partners. But it's pretty prescriptive. You figure out what your policy is. You talk about him everywhere you can. In his case, you have rallies of tens of thousands, in some cases hundreds of thousands of
in
people.
between courtroom appearances.
That was a bad couple of months.
Yeah.
But he managed.
Yeah.
He
Did
managed
you ever
through
see
it.
him down?
Never. Never. In the dark days when truly they were persecuting him, he put a suit on and a tie on and came to the office and worked all day, every day.
Right. And now during this period, you had worked for Ron DeSantis, and then there was quite a nasty falling out, which I only realized recently they were very nasty to you and tried to really destroy your career. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. But it's in my rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And I think he's governing Florida, which is my home state. He's a good governor. And whatever personal differences he had or whatever deficiencies he thought I had are long past my thinking about them.
And what went wrong with his campaign? I mean, he seemed to start off with so much promise, and then Donald Trump pretty much demolished him.
Correct.
Pretty comprehensively.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So what was wrong, apart from having lost you?
No, it had nothing to do with me. It was the president's time, and he did the things that a candidate has to do to get through those early primary states, the first four in particular. The president had done it before. He knew what was involved. We had an organization and apparatus that supported him. And frankly, there was never any question that it was going to end up like it did.
Mm. And you managed to get Florida. I mean, I think he got triple the Florida vote. He managed to turn Florida into a Republican state from it was a blue state. Mm-hmm. What's the secret?
So it's the influx. You benefited by the influx of people moving to Florida. So there's more to work with.
Right. All those New Yorkers.
People from New Jersey and California that came to Florida, came because they weren't happy with where they came from in so many cases. So it's pretty easy when you come from a blue state that's failing you to say, well, you should think about this thing becoming a Republican. And in Donald Trump's Republican world, the sell was incredibly easy. Mm-hmm. In fairness, he had 3 campaigns there to register voters, and also Ron DeSantis, and most importantly, Rick Scott. Right. In his 8 years of being governor, really made a difference. These individuals prioritized voter registration, and then if you register them, they're the most likely to vote. And you know who they are because you registered them. So getting out the vote is a little bit easier. So it all kind of worked synergistically in Florida. And now it's red for sure.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to your childhood. Your dad, Pat Summerall, was a legendary sportscaster, also a talented athlete. He'd also had a very difficult childhood, I think, and which then later came back in the form of alcoholism. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your growing up, under the shadow, I guess, of this amazing father that everybody loved, and what an impact that had on you. I know you were very sporty as well.
I was, back in the day. I grew up in the 60s when, in most families, the daughters, the girls, didn't have all the same opportunities that the boys had, and in my family, we did. He would never have thought of giving my brothers an opportunity that he didn't give me. And that I didn't realize at the time that was unusual. But I look back at it now and realize I don't think I would have been able to do the things I've been able to do, really gender blind, because that's how I was raised. And my mother was the same. So I grew up in a household where everybody was equal, and it was a merit-based household.
Right.
100%. And that's just kind of who I am because of it.
And you were the oldest with 2 younger brothers.
Right.
So did that make you a bit of a tomboy? What was your attitude?
Not so much. Yeah. I did the whole home ec thing and all that. But everybody in the family was very athletic and punishingly so. which,
How?
well, in Florida, when you could always get a tennis court at noon because what fool would play? But we did. and we all played every sport and did everything. And when my brothers misbehaved, my mother would send them out to run it off.
Right.
And we just sort of grew up that way. We grew up competitively, but it was a healthy competition. And because because you earned what you got in our family, we all earned it. And it was an unusual thing. Maybe it's unusual now. It was certainly unusual in the 60s.
Tell me what your memories were of your father growing up.
He made it a point to take us to work. So I've spent lots of time in the broadcast booth at various golf and lots of tennis and some football over the years. Again, I don't think there were lots of daughters in those boxes back then. And, we knew he was successful and he grew in success and stature over the years. And we watched it happen. And I think I was afforded opportunities that others would not have been. So my memories of my dad are of a driven, smart, kind person.
He did, I think, a master's in Russian history, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
That's surprising.
Perennial learner. Back in the day, now everything is, online. You can anything you want to know about any athlete or what number they're wearing on any given day, or when they catch a pass, you have to know who it is and who they are. You had to learn that back in the day. Now you just look at your phone. Yeah. But he studied very hard. He worked very, very hard, and ushered in sort of the modern broadcast booth environment in his 25 years with John Madden.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was just the voice of sport. It wasn't just NFL. It was golf and tennis.
Golf, tennis, football, a little bit of ABA when I was young.
Right.
Basketball.
Yeah.
Pan Am Games. So, the quasi-Olympic things. And, he was limited by the network he worked for. If the network, whether it was CBS or Fox, had a particular contract for a sporting event, he would work it. He didn't work the Olympics because that was always back in those days, it was always an NBC presentation. But there was no sport he wouldn't volunteer to work.
And he always had a good time. He always seemed to be funny and just humorous. And
too good sometimes.
Right, yes. Well, which brings me to the sad alcoholism which he got over. But that was because of you in part, wasn't it? You had to write him a letter.
Well, if you become sober and you live another 30 years sober, it's not sad.
No. It's a great triumph.
And it's very conquering difficult. Something that many can't, unfortunately. Yes. But yes, when my mom decided that he needed professional treatment, the part of the prescription was for each of the children to write a letter, which he didn't read until he got into, in his case, the Betty Ford Clinic. And so he says, I don't know, he says it was meaningful enough to really make him think.
And what did you say in the letter?
I talked about, I had one of my daughters was a toddler, and how he in a state wouldn't recognize her or see her when she would be running around, and that was horrifying to me because he'd been such a good dad when I was a little girl. I talked about my own health scare that he'd never sort of asked about, because you don't. It's a disease that clouds your judgment. And then
alcoholism.
Yes, alcoholism or addiction generally.
Addiction, yeah.
And then I said that sometimes I didn't really want to share the same name because he was doing so much that I didn't respect. I don't remember the precise words, but that's kind of what I said to him, and it got his attention apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then you got your dad back after
we
that.
Did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah. And it takes an enormous amount of willpower to get over that. So hats off to him.
He's very unusual. Typically, the smarter you are, the more you think you can outthink addiction.
Yeah.
You can't.
No.
It's a disease, and you have to just get to the point where you resolve never to partake again. And when he left treatment, he never had a relapse. He never had even a temptation. We would go to their house and there'd be beer or wine in the refrigerator, and he just didn't. There was no temptation there. When he beat it, he beat it.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think Donald Trump has got such a will to succeed? I mean, he's got so much money. He doesn't have to do this, as you say. And he wasn't born poor. He didn't have anything to escape from.
He cares he is truly a patriot and cares so deeply about this country. And that's not something that he came to in 2016. It's always been there. I didn't know his dad or his early life, but I have to believe that it comes from there. And this country's given him everything, and he believes this is his chance to begin to give back. And I think he's right.
Yeah. And he's had a few, this has been a pretty smooth presidency, but one little hiccup was Elon.
Yeah. Little hiccup?
Little hiccup, yeah. I saw Elon Musk here, very comfortable coming in and out of the Oval Office, had sleepovers in the Lincoln bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed almost as if he had a sort of fatherly fixation with Donald Trump that I guess inevitably was going to blow up at some point. How did you see that relationship?
Similar.
Yeah.
The president was very, very kind to him. And Elon had so much to offer us. He knew things we didn't know. He knew people and technologies that we didn't know. It was a great thing when it was a great thing, and had a very troublesome ending.
Why do you think that happened?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't understand it. I don't know. I know that what has been said doesn't ring accurate to me. But I don't know. I enjoyed working with Elon. I think he's a fascinating person and sees the world differently. And I think that's probably what the president saw too, just a little bit different than the average Joe. But it certainly came to not a good ending.
Yeah, the president seemed to be very interested in him. I mean, he would spend a long time, at dinners and things, talking to him closely. Obviously, there was something there, but...
Well, he's the world's richest man, might be the world's smartest man, honestly.
Yeah.
And he does have a quirky, approach to the way he views virtually everything, but certainly business and organizations and government, and insight into people that were really important, I think, in the very early days, particularly during transition.
And do you think he got, jealous because he wasn't getting Donald Trump's full attention, or was it something else?
No, that doesn't sound like Elon. I don't know. I don't know.
And apart from that, the rest of the cabinet seemed to be working together like a well-oiled machine. Scott Bessent, I guess, has been a rock star. Who are some of the others that you get on well with? It's not too hard.
Yeah, they're all great. Yeah. But I was sitting in a cabinet meeting one day, and they do tend to go on a while. And so I was jotting down in my notebook how I saw the cabinet. And these numbers are wrong, but order of magnitude correct. 5 published authors, 7 billionaires, 11 lawyers, a couple of minorities, a Democrat or 2. It is an amazing group of people that he put together. And what Bobby Kennedy's done, President took some criticism, not so much for Bobby, but what has he run before? And he has recruited a team that's unparalleled. He's doing great. Brooke Rollins is doing great. Linda McMahon has an impossible job that she's done with great grace.
Yes, and achieved a lot, actually.
Marco Rubio was born for this, and has just been quickly assimilated over here in his NSC position. There's not one who I would say is not a complete success in their in what they're doing in their area.
And they're young and energetic too.
They are. Even the ones that are not young are still energetic.
Yeah. And just lastly, last couple of questions, but I wanted to ask you about any view you had about Joe Biden and the way his office was run. I think he had 2 chiefs of staff, but it was a very low energy presidency.
He was a low energy president. And I think that's actually harder on the staff than what I have. They were pushing, I'm pulling. They could not have been more kind to me as we were transitioning. Really wonderful at telling us what to expect, what resources were at our fingertips. They were terrific. The presidency, not so much, but the individuals that I worked with and I knew were spectacular.